All right. We are working on our fire hydrant today. So I hope that a lot of you guys got started. A lot of you guys should have the assets as well. And I hope that the time I've given to get ahead a little bit here would be beneficial for everybody. And so today marks class 10. We got one class, and then the next after that would be the last. So a couple more weeks, and you're off to awesome land. But before that, you gotta get some things finished up. Let's see here, class 10. Oh yeah, okay. If anybody else needs the assets, I'm gonna go ahead and repost them again. That's including the reference images. I'm gonna just paste it here in the chat if you are gonna need the references as well as the original asset as well. I'm gonna go ahead and post that here. Change. Okay, so just pasting this a few times, just in case you did not get it. So have your fire hydrants loaded up. Maybe you could go ahead. You guys can go ahead and follow along with me. Now, for the most part today, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over, at least in the first, in the hour until the break, I guess. I'm gonna go over setting up the UVs, setting up the shaders, and then exporting that, and then baking mesh maps, and then I'm also gonna go ahead and show you guys like a base, like a foundation layer. And I hope that we could do that within the next hour, I guess, probably starting around 6:20, 6:25. But till then, we're gonna go ahead and take attendance now, and then go into Q&A or anything like that if you guys have any. So it seems like everybody is here, but get your questions ready if you do have any questions regarding the UVs part and what we talked about last week. And we can certainly answer those questions. Okay, let's see here. Zachary, no, Zachary. Russell. Is Russell here?
Here.
Hello. Robert.
Hello.
Here.
Hi there. Davey. Davey going once. No, Davey. Lucas.
Yeah.
Hello. Janie. Are you here, Janie? Hello there. Derek? Is Derek here? No, Derek, it seems. Kimberly? Excuse me. You have a Kimberly? No Kimberly. Alejandro? Alejandro?
Hello.
Hi there. Cody? Is Cody here today?
Good evening.
Hello, yep. Good evening. Young Key? Young Key. No Young Key. Matthias. Matthias here.
Hello.
Hi there. Mark said he'll be back. I'll probably call his name again after. Daniel? Daniel here?
Here. Yeah, I'm here.
Hi there. Ethan. Ethan here. He says He says he's resting, but can you talk? Can you talk, Ethan? Or maybe you can type. Okay. Says he says he's here.
Did you call me?
Not yet, but I put you in the attendance. It's okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, Joseph? Joseph here? Joseph going once. No Joseph. Makia. Is Makia here? No Makia. And Michael. Michael's probably running up the hill or something. I don't know. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Okay. So am I sharing my screen here? Yep. Okay. So we got a few people missing. We have Davey, Derek, Kimberly, Yunky, Joseph, Makia, and Michael. So let me know if any of those guys walk in. All right. So, we've got our fire hydrant here, nice and ready for us. Now you guys should have gotten the time to set up the initial part of the UVs. And what's very important with the UVs are, of course, keeping things organized. So once it's all quote unquote organized, then you can move on to the next step, which should be setting up the shaders, unlocking the normals, and averaging them, and then exporting them so then you can bring them into Substance. A lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today will be review, but the things that I'm going to show you in terms of setup will be sort of your choice. I'm going to show what I expect in the class, and then I'm going to go ahead and show another option. If you want to go towards that option, then you may do so. So the first option is this, where you would just select the entire fire hydrant, excluding the tags. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and keep this separate for the sake of creating text on the tag itself, and I'm gonna show you guys how to do that later on, maybe possibly after the break. But I kept the tag separate due to the fact that I want to go ahead and bring this UV snapshot in Photoshop and then maybe make my own custom graphics or whatever, let's just say that I do, and even take that into Substance and then play with that, and then add some of the PBR elements that we already know of, and apply that onto the keyring here, or the tag. So I'm going to keep that separate, and then what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and apply shader on this. That way we won't be mistaken. So let's go ahead and assign an AI standard surface on this guy, and then we'll call this one Hydrant tag. Is HDR, so shader, shading group. So currently, this is what my finished product looks like, at least for the tag. And you can see here, as I demonstrated last week, we took the front face, and this is the front face that we've gone ahead and laid out right in the center, making sure that all of our UVs are properly laid out like this, very rectangular, very uniform, and if you make it very uniform like this and oriented properly, for example, these falling faces, they're going to be the top, okay, and then these falling faces are going to be the bottom. Oriented this way, we can easily create some kind of character or something, or typeface or something like that in Adobe Photoshop, and then we can go ahead and use that to our advantage later on. So setting it up like this gives you some customization capabilities in Photoshop, which is a good thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and deselect these. What else can we do for this one? And then I guess the last things to do would be to go to our mesh display and unlock this. And then we can average the normals. Okay. Or soften them. It's up to you what you want to do. Or you can harden the edges of these normals. You know, it's just really your choice. Okay, but at the end of the day, it's going to be smooth like this when you're going to be rendering. Okay, so now we have a shader set up for our tag. That's including the ring and the tag themselves. Okay, so we're gonna just kind of leave that as is. Okay. The next part of this is really trying to figure out the rest of the fire hydrant itself. So, as I've mentioned last week, when you guys are laying out your fire hydrant UVs, everything have to be quite uniform, because if it isn't, then you're gonna have problems with textile density and inconsistencies with resolution. So remember that magic button, which is the textile density. Let's go ahead and bring that up. So in my UV toolkit, I'm gonna go to my transform drop down, and at the very bottom you have your textile density right here. So these guys. Okay. What I'm currently doing right now is I have multiple tiles that I'm using right now, but what I could do is compress them all into one. So what's important though, however, is that I am using the same textile density for each of my shells. So if I go ahead and click on this, okay, so this one is at map size of 2K. I set this at 2048, so which is what we're working with. So our map size is at 2048, and then if I go ahead and click get on a shell, I get 12. So if I go to another one, I should also get 12, so on and so forth. This one is really big. It's 20. Okay, so it's very important that everything that every shell that you've gone ahead and laid out have the same textile density. You know, if you look at your laid out shells and turn on your UV distortion, okay, which is this button right here, you should be able to see mostly white. Even if there's a little bit of pink and a little bit of blue, that's okay, but you want it mostly white. Okay, mostly white, very important. Because if you're gonna have some red spots or really red spots, you know, some pink is okay, but if you're gonna have some really red spots, then that's very problematic, and you're gonna have a lot of stretching or compression, right? So red again is compression, and then blue is stretching. So you don't want to go into either of those extremes. So making sure that you're always unfolding your UVs and always keeping your UVs optimized, so then they can be white colored like so. Okay. So another thing I want to mention is, okay, you have everything at the same textile density. Okay, now it's your time to go ahead and pack them, right? So when you go ahead and pack them, make sure that you are using the proper textile density so they're all consistent, and at the same time you're using as much space as possible. Because it's so often that I've seen students, what they would do is they're working with a 2K texture, and then, you know, their UVs are really small. For example, one is like that, the other one is like this, you know, the other one is like this, you know, and then like there's a corner where they're all jammed or something like that, right? And then there's all this dead space, okay, that's just sitting there that, you know, they're not using. Make sure you're using all that space, you know, utilizing your UV textile density size in accordance to what you want to go ahead and pack within the 0 to 1. Okay, and remembering this light gray tile area, that's the 0 to 1. Okay, so I don't want any wasted space as much as possible. You know, maximize the best that you can the UV shell size, because if you don't, then that's a loss in your part, right? So for example, okay, maybe I can even push this to like 12.5 or something like this. I'm gonna go ahead and set this. Okay, so that's, I mean, that's really pushing it, but that would mean that I can go ahead and set these to 12.5, you know, and so on and so forth, right? So if these increase a little bit, I can go ahead and nudge these around, okay, and then create more space, okay, to get more details, or to get more pixels into my shells. Because if you don't do this, then you know you are again losing that opportunity. Because you could have more detail on a certain shell, but you just didn't put in the time to properly optimize that. So you want to go ahead and do that. Okay, so pack everything within the 0 to 1 and making sure that they're all having the same textile density, maximizing as much space as possible. I don't want to see wasted space. Okay, try to you know, pack your UVs as not really close, but just enough buffer. Okay, so maybe just, let's just say with this illustration right here that I'm showing you right now, that's maybe what your target could be. You know, something like this, within the 0 to 1. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
For say like a different box, are they able to be different textile densities? Like in...
Yeah, they can be. For example, if this one is 12.5 and then this one is like 12 or something, let's just say. Okay, that's okay. As long as one is not double or really extreme in terms of textile density value. So if this one is 12 and then this one is, let's say 6, which is half of that, then that wouldn't be good, right? As much as possible, it's okay to have them within the range, as close as possible. So 12, 12.5, you know, or 11.5, something like this. All right.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I mean, like in like a separate UV box, like when you're working on, say, the caps or whatever.
The bolts. These guys.
So you got 10 boxes. Can they all be different tessellation?
Textile densities.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. They can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're packing them all in one 0 to 1, then you want to go ahead and have all of them as close as possible. Now we're going to talk about the possibility of using multiple tiles in just a little bit. Okay, but we're going to just talk about sort of the first part, which would be, okay, what do I expect, and what you can do, like as somebody who can pass, I guess you should say. so yeah. So yes.
Oh, sorry. No, continue. I'll ask after.
Is it related or?
Kind of. I was gonna ask, like, do you, the UVs we've made so far, do you want us to submit them today, or do you want us to like lay out and then submit for next week, or?
What I'd like you to do is lay it out. You're probably working on it right now, and if you have any questions, then send it to me. But I'm not gonna be collecting them until we collect everything else. So
okay.
Yeah.
So we don't have to submit anything today.
No, we're not submitting anything. However, if you do have a question or you want me to take a look at your UVs, I'll be willing to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so what ideally we would like to do are those things. The last thing that I would like to mention is that, okay, everything is laid out properly. Your textile density is correct. You're utilizing your 0 to 1 space, right? You're not trying to waste any other space. And then last but not least, make sure everything is oriented properly. Okay. So not only organized, in terms of you understanding which shell is which, but as well as making sure that, things aren't sideways or, awkwardly kind of rotated. No UVs are upside down, for example, nothing like this. Because if you have things that are upside down like that, that's going to be a problem for you, who's going to be the texture artist, who's going to be texturing these things. Because you receive an asset like this, let's just say, and then somebody gave it to you and it's upside down. Well, it's kind of annoying, because now I have to think this is the top and then this part here is the bottom, and that's no good. So we want to go ahead and make sure that we orient properly.
And overlapping too.
Overlapping too. Actually, you know what? That's a good point. Overlapping and spilling. Okay, so overlapping would be an example of it would be this. So let's just say, let's take this shell here, and it's just barely on top of the other one, say like that, because you forgot that this was, really close to this one, let's just say. Okay, so you're gonna have problems with this, and you're gonna be like, Harold, I don't know what's going on here. Seems like my texture is repeating or something like that, and I don't know what to do. Well, maybe because they're on top of one another. Okay, now there's a lot of I want to say human mistakes. Okay, like mistakes that you will miss if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, or you miss a certain part. For example, you didn't UV that part, or you didn't use automatic UVs to lay out the UVs. Just little things that will show you problems later on, and you didn't realize it's actually a UV issue rather than a texturing issue. Okay, that's still solvable, and we will answer them when they arise. I doubt that we will have some, but we will see, because there will be just to forewarn everybody, or maybe you ran into them now. There's certain things that I have not covered that you're gonna realize you have problems with, and then that's when the time, if you do run into it, then we're gonna go address it. Okay, there's just too many things about UVs, and the errors that one can make along the way when making the UVs. So we will address them as they come. But the things that I've been telling you about, these are the things to do, so then you can avoid the things that could lead you to mistakes. So if you follow along properly and just follow these steps properly, then we shouldn't have any problem. Okay, so we did overlapping, right? We don't want any overlapping like that. The next thing is spilling. Spilling would be coming out of the 0 to 1, okay, even by just a pixel, because Substance Painter does not like it. So for example, if I took the shell and I'm going to bring its border just past the 0 to 1 like this, okay, and then you obviously, if we zoom right in here, it's clearly spilling. But if you're out here like that, you probably won't notice it. You're out here and you're dealing with your UVs, blah blah blah, and then you export this. Okay, you didn't notice, and then next thing you know, Substance won't let you start a new project, or you're UVing, but like you can't texture. Things are funny things are happening. Well, because of this one spill right here. So you want to go ahead and push that back and create a border. At least a little bit of buffer between the actual border of the 0 to 1, okay, and your shell. So just a tiny bit of buffer, just like how you would have a buffer in between the shells. Have a buffer as well between the shells and the border of the 0 to 1. Okay, and that applies too with if you're doing UDIMs or multiple tiling. Try not to have a tile spilling onto the other tile. Okay, so for example, if you're using 1 and 2, like you don't want this one to be dipping its its little toes like that, and then you didn't notice that. Okay, and then next thing you know, you're like, how come 002 doesn't work? And so that's why, because it's spilling. Okay, so I made sort of two versions here. Not really. I just kind of did two versions. So one is within the 0 to 1, with the exception of the tag, like this. Okay, so everything is in the 0 to 1. And this is what's acceptable, all right? This is what's acceptable for us, and that's good. I probably would have to revisit the sizing of this, and you can go ahead and give certain shells more textile density compared to others based on their scale and contribution on the screen and real estate in the asset compared to others. But ideally, this is what I'm going to be looking for. Everything is organized in the 0 to 1. You have your textile density, somewhat close to one another. You have your orientation set properly. You're utilizing the space, not too much wasted space. Everything is oriented, right, and organized. So this is what is ideal, and this is what I'm going to be looking for, okay, based on the things that I just recently just mentioned there. Okay, awesome. And then with the exception of, again, the tag, we're going to be messing around with this. But this is such a small item that if you made this really small, so for example, if it was like here or something like that. So let's just say if this was right here, then all that textile density that you had here in 002 is now gone, right? By like a small fraction now, because the shells are much smaller. So ideally, you want to keep this one separate. Okay, so the last thing to do, I guess the next thing to do here is you will just take the fire hydrant asset, the one that is all packed in the 0 to 1, and then you'll apply one shader to it. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do that. Let's call this hydrant or fire hydrant. HDR. Okay, and then there it is. Okay, so you have this one here is going to share hydrant tag. Yeah. Okay, so we'll have a total of two shaders. We have just change the camera here. So we'll have a total of two shaders. We have the main fire hydrant and then the tag. Okay, and then this is what we'll be exporting to Substance Painter. All right, so just like what we would do as usual, we would select all of the assets that we want to go ahead and unlock our normals from. So mesh display, unlock normals, and then we're going to go ahead and either smooth or average. Okay, and then this is what we're gonna go ahead and take, okay, to Substance Painter. Now the thing is, we can go ahead and keep these two as a separate file, but if you are gonna be using, two tiles like this, now you're working with something called UDIMs or multi-dimensional texturing or multi-tile texturing, which is good. So version 1 is exactly that. Okay, so you can use UDIMs. All right, you're allowed. Okay, but however, I'm gonna go ahead and show you how you can attach the UDIMs later on when we are gonna be texturing, and that's a very important thing to note. So you have two ways to go about it. For those who are gamers and they want to go ahead and sorry, not gamers, but game designers, for those who want to practice their just UVing something, putting it in the 0 to 1, you can take the first approach, which is packing everything in the 0 to 1 with the exception of the tag, I guess, and then exporting that with one shader, and then you're good to go. Okay, but for those who want to explore a little bit more, this is our second option. So our second option now would be this. You are going to be using multi-tiles, first of all. So that means you can separate the UVs based on certain attributes, usually per material. So if you're to look at the references, right, you know, maybe this knob here is a different material. And then these caps, maybe they're a different color. I think these are white. Okay. And then these ones are red, and so on and so forth. And then the tag is also a different material. So what you can do is, again, separate those UV shells based on the type of material or the color. Up to you. You know, really, world's your oyster. Whatever you want to do, however you want to go ahead and split it. But what I've done is I've gone ahead and split these UVs, and these ones are going to be the red ones. Okay, the red painted sections. Okay, these UVs here are the white painted sections. Okay, and plus the knob. So really, it's the white and the miscellaneous. Okay, and then the third UDIM tile will be the tag, and then the fourth will be the bolts. But what I could actually do is I can just bring these guys in here or something, and then let's figure out what are my 14. Okay, yeah, that's plenty. Let's set this as 15. Yeah, that's plenty. And then these guys, let's get 20. Okay. Yeah, that's plenty, considering these ones are 12. Okay, so as we were saying earlier, you don't have to have the same textile density as the one as the shells in the previous or the other tile, right? So for example, if these shells here are actually 12 in textile density, these ones here could be 12 and higher. Okay, why not, right? Because in a certain instance, that could actually be a strategy. So certain shells, for example, are not going to be seen as much in the camera. So you could have a slightly lower textile density. And then there's certain ones, right, that have more, let's just say, certain areas that have a more tendency, a higher tendency of it being close up to the camera. Then you can pump the textile density on those ones, okay, on those shells. So that's your call. So that's also a strategy that you can use. And that's the beauty of the UDIMs, because you have a little bit of flexibility there. All right. So we have our tag on the third, and that's obviously consuming a lot of textile density because we want to put as much resolution there as possible. Because what if...
Hey, Harold, I'm here. Just got in.
Oh, Michael. Hi.
Yeah. Sorry, work.
yeah, that's all right. No problem. Yeah, thanks for being here. So we're just talking about UDIMs and sort of the other option of laying out the UVs and then bringing it out in Substance.
Okay.
So yeah, this is the second option here. You guys, we have UDIM 1001. So you can see it up here at the top left hand corner of the tile description. U1V1 1001 is the tile number, and then so on and so forth. This one's 1002, right? Awesome. So this would be your multi-tile method. Okay, I guess either way, the first method you could have multi-tile. You don't have to have multi-tile, honestly. So let's just say if you went with the first option, you're probably going to have 2 shaders, one for the group in the 1001, and then another shader for the tag, and then you can just export them separately. Export the tag, export the body, okay, separately texture them, and then separately bring them in. That's not a problem, as long as it renders. Really, at the end of the day, if your client sees that everything's working really well, and your lead is happy with how you laid out your UVs, and it's pretty effective, okay, there's no losses, meaning you're not wasting any textile density, or there's no loss in opportunity when it comes to unfolding or optimizing, then you're good to go. Okay, but the things that I've told you are landmarks, essentially milestones and or reminders for you to follow, so you can have a UV set that's quite ideal, and I would say appealing if you put enough time and effort into into each part of the step when setting up your UVs. Okay, so you can either go either way. Either way, you can go ahead and do so. So we have. I'm gonna go with this one here. So I'm gonna go with UDIM because I wanted to demonstrate this. But it's the same process, really. Actually, it's easier if you went with the first way, the first method, because the first method is then something that you're used to. You've done that before. UDIM is something a little bit different, a little bit, a tiny bit advanced. It's not really that much more advanced. It's just dealing now with multiple tiles. One of the dangers of UDIMs, not dangers, but really something to watch out for, is if your computer really does take a long time to render, you might want to go ahead and go with the first method. The first method will only draw from the one tile, okay? And let's just say you're gonna be working with 4 maps. So, or sorry, 4 types of maps: diffuse map, metal, roughness, and normal. Let's just say. Then that means you're only going to be dealing with 4 maps, because you only have 1 UV tile. However, if you have, let's just say, 3 UV tiles and you're dealing with 4 different kinds of maps and you're connecting 4 different kind of maps on the shader, then now you're dealing with, 3 times 4 is 12. So now you're dealing with 12 maps. Okay, so imagine in an actual production. Where you could be in, you could easily have, let's just say 12 UDIMs, or even 20 UDIMs, and even if you ever get to the level that we're working with, and that's like 50 UDIMs or more, then now you're dealing with 50 maps for diffuse, 50 maps for roughness, 50 maps for metalness, 50. So it gets really, really insane. So
like 1,000?
Sorry?
Is that like 5,000?
Not quite,
5,000?
because you're dealing with 50 each, and you're utilizing 4 maps or 5 maps, or let's just say, I don't know, maybe you're doing 6 maps, but so yeah, it wouldn't reach thousands, but it would reach a few hundreds. Yeah, it's like 200, 300, 400 maps, and they're all at 4K or something like this. So now you're dealing with,
if you've got a really heavily populated scene, each object's gonna have a map. Like it's gonna have UV maps to reference.
Yeah.
Right. So if you've got like a scene with like 50 objects, each one of them is gonna have, say, four
UV tiles.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Even if it's like 1 tile, you're going to have the 4
different maps,
like your metalness, roughness, maps.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a couple hundred right there if you got 50 objects in the scene.
Yeah, and I'm talking about one asset, right? So yeah. So if we're talking about with a scene, so for example, I don't know, let's just take like Pacific Rim or something, right? So one of the dinosaurs, let's just say, would have 50 UDIMs. Of course, they're not going to use 50 UDIMs right off the bat. But if they're doing a wide shot with the robot, then now you're dealing with, say, 100 UDIMs, right? 50 on each, let's just say, and then you're going to go ahead and render this thing, and now it's pulling out and drawing information from all the UDIMs and all the maps, and now your calculation just shoots up the roof, and so that's what makes it powerful, but at the same time will require then some computing power too. So if your computer is okay with working with UDIMs and you're pretty confident that your machine is beefy, then hey, push it, right? But if your computer is a little bit older, it's okay if you want to go the classic way. Just one tile, 4 maps, it's okay. Yeah, okay. And then make sure when you're setting all this up, unlock the normals, average or soften the normals, and then export it out. Okay, we don't have a high res for this guy. I wish we did. We don't have a high res for him. For those who are keeners, you can take this in ZBrush or Mudbox or something like this, apply some texturing or something like that, and then you can export the high res as a displacement map or a normal map, and then you can use that as your normal map or some kind of, texture bump detail or something like this. But that's completely separate class, I guess. I tried to teach ZBrush before in this class. It didn't go so well. It really did. I wish it did. But if you are ever curious, I could possibly show something. Just talk about that briefly. But that's not completely necessary with this class. So we're gonna be using the same low res to generate the high res. It's a hard program to learn. Yeah, it's there's certainly a learning curve. Insanely frustrating. Yeah, if you're not used to it at all, and you got to take a little bit of time to get a handle of it. But even then, let's just say like within like the 3 months, let's just say that you're learning it, you will get accustomed to it. But then switching back to like Maya or something, or switching back to another program will kind of like throw you off a little bit. But it is frustrating, the camera controls. It's unfortunate that you're not able to switch it to like Maya default or something. Maybe someday in the future. I've said that so many versions ago as well, but yeah, it's fairly frustrating. So let's just say we went this way, this method here. So I'm gonna just apply a shader on all of these. So I'm not gonna keep this guy exclusive. Okay, I'm gonna just apply one shader to the entire thing because I'm using UDIMs. If you're using the first method, which is this, okay, one shader for the tag and another shader for these guys, because well, this UV set here will have to go in the 1001. Okay, so you'll have one shader for this, and then another shader for this. And then you're just going to export them separately. Okay, that way you're not doing multiple items. Or multiple UDIMs. Okay, so let's apply a shader here. A hydrant. Okay. And then I believe we've... let's just do it anyway. So unlock... and soften edge. Okay, so everything is according to what it should be. Let's go ahead and save this. Okay, remember the FBX export, file export selection option box. We're gonna choose FBX to export the objects from Maya. Where's my FBX? Right here. Let's go ahead and export that selection. Let's go find our temp folder. Fire, hydrant, texturing. Usually I would put like a version number or something like that, just to see the difference between the two. Sometimes I would have problems with the first export. If I don't, it's okay. But just sometimes I always just in case. So that could be a tip for you. That way you're not overwriting like a corrupt file. You're not overwriting, and you can compare what mistake you made on the previous export. Okay, and then here's another prompt. I believe I mentioned this before, but the Fbx file format, if you are exporting, I highly suggest to use ASCII. It's just a more recoverable file. If you're using a binary and it corrupts, then you got to make another one. Not that it's hard to make another export, but just an ASCII is just more reliable, easily transferable as well between versions. So I encourage you to use that, a more flexible version. Also, if you are working with a version, FBX version 2020, and it doesn't work, let's just say in the Adobe Substance Painter, then maybe you can choose another older version, etc. Okay, export that. Let's go and fire up our Substance. I'm going to show you what the UDIMs would look like in my Substance Painter here, so you guys can see what's going on with the UDIMs and what it will show. What you're used to is the classic way, which is just packing everything in the 0 to 1, applying a shader, exporting that, and then not enabling this use UV tile workflow. But this time we're going to go ahead and enable this use UV tile workflow. And we're going to use this because we are using UDIMs. Okay, we can't reverse the option though. If you're working with UDIMs, then you start a new file with this turned on. If you're not going to be using UDIMs, then you just keep this disabled. Okay, 2K. Let's go find our Hydrant. Okay, OpenGL, compute tangent space per fragment, and then you want to use UV tile workflow. Okay, we're gonna paint across tiles, and that's very important to keep on. There's two options here, really, but I encourage you to just preserve the UV tile layout per material. Did anybody else walk in during the time I've been chatting? Is Davey here? Okay, Yunky is here. Hello, Yunky. Let's see. Is Derek here? Did Derek come in? No, Kimberly? Seems like only Yunky. Okay. Only Yunky, I guess. So we've gone ahead and imported our file, picked our template. Okay, hit OK. Awesome. So here it is. Okay, let's choose different lighting situations, like Studio 5 maybe. More of a neutral light. By the way, you can enable your shadows if you're feeling like you want shadows. It's pretty cool. Right, if you want a little bit of, if you want to give yourself a little bit of a shadow action, you can do that. But anyway, look what happens here. In our texture set list, you should have per shader, right? Because you named your shader, but in this case, we have one shader, fire hydrant, and under that, it's showing the different UDIM tiles. So 1001, 1002, 1003. And then, if you switch to... If you switch to 2D mode, here you can see that we're using multiple tiles now. Okay, before it would only be the 1001 and that's it. And now we're using all three at the same time. And then we applied one shader to all those objects, and they're all being shared in the one.
So once you export using multiple tiles, Substance will automatically read that?
Yes, but make sure
Okay.
Make sure you are enabling this use UV tile workflow. That's very important.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, so let's go ahead and generate our mesh maps. Now, you're going to have a different set of mesh maps, and you're going to see it here. So I'm going to just show you. So here we go. So let's go to bake mesh maps. Let's do 2K. Dilation width of maybe 16. We're going to enable this use low poly meshes high poly. Okay, and then leave everything as is. Anti-aliasing at 2x2. And I guess that's it. Always, yeah. Okay, that's it. So you can see it generating here. The thing is, it's taking a little while for each one, right? Why? Because it's baking across the multiple tiles. So you can see that in our project shelf here, there are the mesh maps is being generated. Okay, so it's finished now. So you have, there's a number on top of the mesh maps that you didn't have before. So what this means is that there are 3 normal maps, 3 position maps, 3 curvature, etc., etc. It's using 3 each because, again, we have 3 tiles that we're dealing with in this particular project and in this asset. So now your map count, mesh map count just tripled. Not necessarily a bad thing. As long as your computer is able to handle it, it's all good. One thing that causes problems is the GPU acceleration. And it sits here. I believe it's edit, settings. And IRA. Oh, right here. So edit and then settings. And then there is under baking options, there's this enable GPU ray tracing. Go ahead and disable that. So that will just get rid of the ray tracing. You don't really need that. Okay. Okay, so now this is what you're going to be dealing with, right? So painting across the tiles, meaning if I went ahead now and started a new layer, and I mean fill layer, let's make this red or something. Okay, and let's make this a black mask. I can now choose my paintbrush, go to my brushes, find some brush that I like. Let's just say this is Chalk Strong. I'm holding Control, holding right click to increase my brush size. And now I can paint across the entire tile. Now it looks like, oh yeah, no big deal. You're painting across tiles. Actually, what's happening here is this. It's actually painting on 0 to 1, 0 to 2, and possibly 0 to 3 all at once, which is really cool. So I can do this. Okay, so obviously that's awesome, right? And then if you see here, that red reflects on all the UV tiles, and that's what you want. Okay, and that's the power of the UDIMs. All right, so now we're utilizing more information and really unlocking more detail potential if you are using multiple UDIMs. The drawback is, again, because now we have multiple UDIMs, we have more maps. All right, does everybody understand that part? Anyway.
Yep.
Cool. If anyone has any questions, now's the time to ask.
Is there a way to lock one of the UDIMs so it doesn't get painted?
Not really. You just have to avoid it or remove.
Yeah. Okay.
Or remove the paint from that particular tile or shell. So,
okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So let's address that. Let's address that question. So let's just do that again. So red, black mask. Make this red. So let's paint across here. See something like this, and you're like, oh no, it got on the tag. So then what you would want to do is press 4 on your keyboard. The quickest way is pressing 4, and that's enabling your polygon fill. And you want to select the UV chunk fill method. Okay, this time you don't want to add white because white is to reveal, black is to conceal, and that's to remove. So you want to set that fill to black, meaning to remove, and then all you got to do is select your UV tile. And that's what's nice about having all of the shells set up the way you know them, and you know how they're separated, because now I can just go here into my 2D mode and then just, marquee select this tile here, and then that removes all of the red, let's just say, off of the shells that's on 1003.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, any questions? Any other questions?
Do generators work on like all of them at once, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that's what's so cool about it too. So, let me throw a generator. Why not? Let's do a dark red, and then let's duplicate this. Call this yellow. Okay. Black mask. Let's apply a generator. Let's apply the curvature generator, and then there it is.
Nice.
Right? So it's multiple UDIMs, and it all just works with just, the one layer. So the one layer is able to control all those tiles, and it's really nice. Okay, any more questions? Anybody? Okay. So let's look at the reference images here. And let's go over some of the material that you can go ahead and create. Remember, when you're texturing, you don't just go ahead and start plopping colors and information, okay? And just start, applying generators and things like this. There's a reason why there's a generator. There's a reason why there's a brush, because you're using that brush to create something. There's always an end goal, okay? And it's always you, the artist, and your vision for that particular asset that matters, not the tool. People tend to think that, oh yeah, I got this tool, it's awesome, I'll just use the generators and then we're good to go. Not really, okay? There has to be a mix of both and you're using the generators, you're using the tools to get to a certain goal, a certain look, okay? And you want to achieve that certain look because you had a vision about it, and you saw it before you've created it. All right. So that's more important. That precedes any tool or technique. All right. The technique comes after, but the artistic vision comes first. And that artistic vision then is here, given to you via the reference. So let's go ahead and have a look. Clearly, none of the surface details are mechanical. A lot of it is very random. However, we can see that there's an accumulation of certain looks and textures in certain areas due to certain wear and tear. Okay, for example, where would water collect most? Well, in the creases. So that's where the peeling of the paint will be. You know, certain parts here, like around the kind of neck or, you know, inner corners of those caps. Moss also collects on those areas where water it usually collects, so that's where we will probably plop in some of these green moss textures. Overall, we have a lot of cracks and bumps on the surface of the fire hydrant, so we can kind of keep that generic. But other areas certainly have a bit more surface bump compared to others. At the very bottom, there's a lot more dust and dirt. Is that rust? Rust lives underneath the paint. So if there's any paint that's peeling, most likely just underneath that would be where the rust is occurring, right? Because the chipping is caused by the rust being built underneath the paint. Another one, another material we can point out is the dirt and the water collecting together and creating this kind of dripping effect. Remember, this is more realistic. You can exaggerate some of these effects. Okay, moss also, and maybe fungi building up. Okay, on the surface of the fire hydrant. Okay, let's look at some of these. Based on some of the angles here, you can see kind of what's happening. You see some of the bolts also have some chipping on them. Maybe they've tried to open this, you know, fire hydrant before, or maybe they've tried to open these caps before, so maybe there's some scratches or something like that. You may add that if you'd like. Maybe some, you know, some chipping around these edges just to give a sign that there has been some use and interaction with some of these nuts and bolts. Okay, you can see all the chipping and stuff. There's more chipping back here compared to the front. And I find that kind of interesting, maybe because when the water, maybe when it rains or when it's windy, it's hitting mostly the backside. Okay, and then most of these bolts have the paint peeling off of it. Here's some close-ups of certain areas. Okay, so you can see how the rust is behaving on the surface here. So let's just say water seeped into here, and then it starts to it starts to chip the paint, rust starts to build, and then even the rust starts to spread via moisture in the water, right? So you can see in certain areas here, it is building up. Rust is in there, and it's starting to peel away the paint. And then there's some that are a bit more, that have progressed even further. And there's some really bad areas like down here where clearly the paint is gone and the rust have certainly taken over. Okay, so let's observe what the tag is doing here. Clearly, it's a reflective material. It's reflective. It's reflecting the green. There's some paint splatter on there, oddly enough. And here are some, I don't know, I guess some details about this specific fire hydrant. Okay, and then we have two different materials. We have like a reflective, more steel-like material, more maybe steel aluminum type material. And then our ring here, if you look super closely, it's got this coil around it. We can try to make that. We can try, we'll see. And using normal maps, and then applying a different kind of, almost like brass material maybe. We'll see. So here's more shots. You can really see the surface detail on this one. There's a lot of bumps and cracks. Okay, pocks, whatever it may be. Okay, so feel free to exaggerate some of these, some of the things that's happening on the surface of the fire hydrant. It doesn't have to be realistic, as long as we can clearly see that these are the things that's happening, and then you go ahead and build this in Substance, and then go ahead and render it out. Very detailed pictures by yours truly. You know, you guys, this is the best way of getting textures. Just shoot your own photos if you can. Like, most of you guys have phones nowadays. A lot of the phones nowadays, unless your phone was like 6 years old or something like that, and it's not able to take HD pics. I'm sure back then they did as well, but anyway, all of our phones should be able to take high-res pictures. So, you know, if you have to walk up to the item and take close-ups to get the look that you want, especially if you're outside and it's an overcast light, then it'll be perfect for shooting subjects like this. Like if you want a texture of, like, let's say a brick wall or granite floor, or, you know, whatever texture you want. Overcast skies is perfect. And just use your phone, whatever phone you got. I got a Pixel 3a, older phone, but it does the job perfectly fine. So if you are thinking of going this route and moving forward with your texturing, I encourage to take pictures in real life and then bring them into your assets to just add a little more of that realism. Or not even realism. If you're not going with realism, then it can be stylized, but at least you understand the foundations of where those textures are coming from, where the details and materials are coming from, where the properties, how the properties are being driven, right? And how they tell a story together. Okay, what's going to happen is when you are making the textures for this, you're going to have a mixture of both hand painting and procedural texturing. And so, it's really the best way of texturing. You're gonna have a good mix of both, and then you're gonna keep refining that, keep refining that, keep refining that. In reality, the time given for us to build this asset is way too short. Ideally, you're gonna be working, if you think about it, if you're in a studio, you're gonna be working every day, 8 hours a day. You know, for, let's just say this asset is due in 2 weeks, so you're going to be working on this every day for 8 hours for 2 weeks, okay, to get it to look, let's just say, like this asset, okay, with all the tags and all the information, the details, and what have you. So that's the amount of time that you're going to be working on this, and you're going to be focused just simply on this asset. But for schooling, you know, we don't have much time, but we can use generators. We can apply some customization and hand painting on some of the materials that we're going to be building, and so on and so forth. So it should give us a foundation to build on later if you are planning to use this as your portfolio piece or something. All right, and that ends the slide there. Okay, so observing all those traits and the material that's on this fire hydrant is a key thing to do. So let's go ahead and set that up here in Substance. I want to increase my light intensity, that or just work with Tomoko Studio. Yeah, I think I'll just work with Tomoko Studio. I mean, it is the brightest, so. Ideally, you'll have your pure ref or some kind of reference, some kind of reference window or something. Go ahead, paste that in here. I'm just gonna use this for sampling colors and looking at colors and stuff. Anyway, let's go ahead and set up the red. We can color sample like so, but that's not gonna be enough. We're gonna go ahead and change Studio 3. I'm gonna end up changing the color, probably more saturated. Something like this. So imagine if the light was behaving like that, and something like that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and bring the roughness down. Yeah, 0.45. Then that will probably need, we'll probably need to increase our saturation just a little bit more. Maybe even darken it and mute it a little bit. These subtle differences, you guys, makes a difference. Okay, so you want to try to get the color as close as possible, right? Before any textures or anything like this, before we add any dirt or anything like that. Making sure that all those colors are sitting well. So red base. Let's duplicate this. Let's call this white base. So probably the same roughness. So we can change this to something white, like so. It's pretty white in the camera, but I'm gonna go with like a more chalk white. Chalk white is good. Like muted chalk white. If you have to adjust your colors and values by like a hair, do so. It does make a difference, and that's what you're going to be doing if you're in the studio. Your clients are going to nitpick on your colors, and believe me, my goodness, I've gone, man, I had my fair share of complaints. Like, are you kidding, man? Are you kidding? Asset came back 4 times because it wasn't the right yellow. But anyway, that's just the way it is, you know. So chalk white, yeah, that's good. Base white. Okay. There's this kind of shale color for the top of the hydrant here. We'll call this steel. We'll call this head. Head base. You can color sample it. Ooh, it's actually pretty good. Ooh, it's actually really good, actually. Okay. Cool. So what else? What else can we these reflective oh, let's just do the screws first. Let's call this steel, I guess. I didn't want to name the other ones steel, or the head steel, because we could use that for this. So rough, yeah, it's pretty rough. Yeah, it's pretty shiny. 0.425. Okay, that's good. And then let's make this metallic. Remember, guys, don't put your metallic value all the way to 1, else it'll turn black. Okay, and that's not really good in Substance, and Maya. So 0.8, 0.85, even 0.9. Like, I would say 0.9 would be your cap. Try not to put anything at 1 because it will make your textures black. Brighten it up a little bit. Now let's switch to Tomoko. Is this the... No, I need to brighten it a little bit. Maybe 7.5. Yeah, okay. That's about right for these guys, I think. Okay, and then let's figure out the rust color. Is there like a rust material somewhere? Ah, right here, rust fine. Yeah, I guess you could use that one. Let's see here.
I mean, if it comes out nice, like, then why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty nice, to be honest. And you're not going to see it much.
You know, like, you'd be masking most of it off anyway, but...
Yeah, it's pretty nice. So I would just kind of use that rust fine. It's got... You can change the rust color, of course. But, I mean, it looks good, actually. Maybe darken it a little bit.
So if you used a little bit of the depth on it, too, you might be able to simulate the paint. Like the texturing of the paint.
Are you talking about just for the rust, or what are you
Well, like if you use the texture on the rust, like if you make it thick enough that it shows through when you apply the paint over top, it could give you the texturing of the paint.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
or the rust bubbling under the paint.
Well, yeah, that too, because the rust almost has that kind of a lumpy feel like you'd get from the paint itself. So, I mean, if you can do it with one layer instead of two to get that texture, it's just that much less work. Assuming it turns out nice. If it doesn't turn out nice, then it's...
Yeah, you gotta try it out, really.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it looks good. To me, it looks good. I just had to darken it a little bit, just so can match at the values of some of the rust spots here, because it was kind of light.
Yeah.
But rust, fine. That's good. Then we wanted to...
Oh, yeah, you might want to exempt the
create the tag.
Tag from rust.
Yeah, let's make the tag here, because I joined it here, but yeah, obviously it could be separate, right? But I'm just gonna create a base for the tag, because we're gonna need to texture that separately anyway. So let's go ahead and make a tag layer here. Metal roughness. It's pretty shiny. So point. It's also metallic. 0.85 is good. See, there's the bump right there for you. You can see it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can disable your height. Okay. See that if you select your rust fine, and then under the height parameter, you could disable that. You can see the bump working there.
But if you want the height on like 90% of the model, you just don't want it on the tag, right?
Yeah.
So
you can even increase the height, probably. So let's just see here. Attribute, channel mapping. Height. Oh no, you can't. Oh, you can. Height range, right here. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like, then it would show through whatever the paint, like, because you look at the hydrant and it's got the bubbles throughout. If the rust provides the bubbles that you need, you don't need to apply it to the paint layer.
That's right. You just crank accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it. So these are all our base layers. Tag base. Okay, and then once we've all made our base layers, then we sort them into in proper order. So our rust is always going to be at the bottom. Tag could be at the top, I guess. It's kind of separate, but we're going to make a folder for each one of these. We're going to go tag folder. Put the tag in there. This will be bolts. I just put steel base here, but that will be the bolts. This is the head. There's not going to be a lot in this one because it's just like the steel, and then some dust, I guess, or some markings on there, some scratches maybe.
Yeah, it's a combination of like rust and like tool marks, because they would have been put on and off with a wrench, right? If not a wrench, then like a. I think you know the tool. I can't remember what it's called, but
it's like a pipe wrench, but it goes around on the top.
Like
yeah, well, I was thinking more like the tire iron.
Yeah, it's formed.
Yeah, like where you just kind of.
Oh, like a key, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's like where it's got the cross with the different.
Hydrant wrench, fitting wrench.
Hydrant,
there you go.
Yeah,
Cody knows.
Go. Yeah.
Hydrant wrench. Nice. Okay, so one last thing. Once you set up your base layers and you put them in each folder, then you're going to create masks, okay, for each of the materials on the folder. Okay, so you make the mask on the folder. So let's go and right click on this. Let's say red paint folder. Let's apply black on all of these. So apply black on all of the black mask on all the folders. And then let's say red paint folder, select the mask, press 4 to apply the polygon fill, and then fill via UV shell. So in here, this is gonna be our rust, our red. I mean, our red paint. What you can even do is go to your UV tile mode and just select all the shells in the 1001 because, well, they're all red, right? We know. So the white, likewise, select the white mask, and then just select all the ones at 1002, and then select the tag. Select all these 003. Go to the bolts folder, find all the bolts, select all the bolts. Okay, and that's it, I think. Okay, and then there you go. So now it's all kind of your foundation is here. It's laid out. Oh, the head. Head folder. There you go. So bolts on top, yeah. I would even bring the bolts underneath the red paint. I mean, that makes sense.
So awesome.
And then I would fill in the red with the bolts as well, and then I can remove accordingly. What is causing this to be that way? Oh, the white paint. I see. Okay, let's go ahead and remove the white paint on there. There you go. Nice. All right. So there's your base, your foundation, and then we're gonna go ahead and work with this later on. You know what? Let's remove the red off of this too, because it's kind of bothering me. There you go. Now it works. Okay, so now's the time to save. Okay. Any questions with just the setup part there, you guys?
That's awesome.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
Awesome. Okay, now's the time to save. Set that up as your foundation. Okay, and then when we get back, we're gonna go ahead and approach this, but keep working on your UVs. Of course, take a break. When you get back, keep working on the UVs. And then I'm gonna go ahead and kind of start tackling some of these things, some of the texturing bit by bit. Possibly approach the tag as well. And then maybe we can go forward with the texturing next week. Cody's typing something. Maybe he has a question.
It must just be bugging out. I'm not typing anything.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks for waiting, though.
Yeah, it says there. It's like just it's got the buffering. Okay, it's gone. All right. Well, we'll see you guys by 8 o'clock, I guess. And yeah, if you got any questions, prepare it so we can answer it. Also, if you have your UVs ready and if you wanna have a 101 or something, you want me to take a look at them, then that's cool too. We can critique your UVs and make sure that that's working proper. So, okay, thank you guys. We'll see you in a little bit.
How long did you say?
Half hour, so 8-ish.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yep. Awesome. I'm back as well there, Leandro. Did anybody else come in during the break? Davey? Derek? Kimberly? Joseph? Or Mikia?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Oh, hello.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody in the chat, so.
Yeah, it seems like Mikia is showing up to be here, but I'm not sure if she's actually participating or not. But I'm gonna go ahead and
She might be on break still too, so.
Oh yeah, that too.
She might just not have come back.
Yeah, so Mikia, if you can hear us, just please respond. I'm gonna go ahead and paste the reference links again, just in case people need it in the chat, so it's available for you there. So setting up your layers, you guys, is going to be very important for this sort of part of the texturing. You're going to have a lot of layers that you're going to be dealing with. It's going to be a mixture of procedural, using generators, using different masks, and custom hand painting layers as well. But it's important to set all this foundation stuff first to get a good idea as to how you're going to go ahead and start building on top of sort of this base layer. What I like to do first is to create like a general bump pass to everything. You can use the Rust Fine bump as well. I just like to be very specific when it comes to the bump that I create. So, but I'm gonna try to just give it a sort of a general kind of bump feel. That way we can give a demonstration of that, and then I can just let you guys work or give you guys time to do any Q&As, Q&A or maybe critique. I'm gonna approach the main, these larger bumps first. I'm not gonna address the peeling yet, so just the kind of random bumps. So I'm gonna go ahead and collapse all these folders. Rust Fine is in the bottom. Go ahead, call this one a bump folder. And specifically, I'm going to disable metal, normal, roughness, and color. And I'm only going to work with height. I'm going to go to grunges, and then I'm going to find or procedural, and I'm going to find maybe like a Perlin or a 3D simplex noise. Also, a black and white spots would work. Something like this. I'm going to try a 3D Perlin noise fractal first. I can left click and drag that over the height. Okay, so just generic surface bump first. And we can change its value. So super subtle. That way we already have like an overall bump. So nothing is now smooth. So I think I can even set this even lower to 0.02. So nothing is smooth now. Everything has a very subtle bump. So if you look at the normal and bump, you can see it there. Very, 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 very subtle. So that's kind of like a nice first layer. So it just kind of does a break up on everything. Okay, I want to call this one subtle generic bump. Okay, let's start let's just duplicate this, and then let's just call this bubbles or something. Okay, and then let's go and find another map that could give us a little bit of a better, or maybe it could be the same one actually. Hold on, let's try 3D simplex.
The bubble effect?
Yeah, like some bubbling. I think 3D simplex is too much. Maybe 3D Perlin. Noise, not the fractal, but the noise. Fill match. That's not working properly. Let's just try the 3D Perlin again. This time, let's make it bigger like this. No, I don't want this. It's too generic still. So maybe we can use the black and white spots. 1, 2, or maybe 2. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, this order. So we can apply a levels on this layer. So I'm not. This is just a overall pass on this. So height, and then we can change. Okay. So we can actually invert this and turn this into bubbles like this. So that's with regular bump. This is with the bubbles.
That's awesome.
Right? So it adds that layer of subtlety and randomness too. So there's some break up here already. Okay. That's good. Let's do some negative bumps. Let's call this bubbles positive. Pause and then duplicate that. We'll call this bubbles neg. Let's change the black and white spots to something maybe like clouds. I don't know. Let's just try clouds. Yeah, this might work actually. Increase the scale. Again, let's apply our levels. And let's go ahead select the affected channel, which would be height. And this time we invert this. So that turn this on and off. So yeah, so this would be the negative bubbles. Oops. Negative bubbles. Okay, so there's our surface. We're still working with generic bump for now. No peeling yet. Okay. So the same process, we're gonna go ahead and make another duplicate. Maybe we can try calling this peeling, not pelling, peeling. Let's close that. What's nice about these normal bumps, you don't really have to apply a different, what should we call this, a blend mode. You just kind of stack them on top of each other, and they'll just do a pass through. For the peeling is going to be a little bit tricky. Finding the map for this would be the key. Maybe something like this grunge map for something like this, where it looks like it's going to be eaten away or something like that. Grunge stain spots might be another one. So marble veins. Oh, that could be actually for cracks and stuff. Maybe. We'll see. Something like this maybe would be nice for peeling. Okay, so let's grab that, put that on top. Okay, it's a bit much. Let's try UV projection and then repeat this a few times. It's a little bit too much, to be honest. I think it should work if I just use spots dirty. No, it doesn't work. How about this? Yeah, this works, but the peeling is a little bit too large. I might have to use a triplanar. Oh, triplanar.
You can mask it out too, so it's not all over the place.
Yeah, but I'm not really concerned about that. I'm concerned about just how big it is, just the scale.
Oh, the texture, yeah.
So I might have to increase the scale. Or, yeah, increase the scale to 2 or something. And then change the levels.
And you're just looking for the perfect...
Yeah, like the size of it. Because it's not going to be peeling this much. Like, it's only going to be, if anything, very subtle.
The perfect map, right? You gotta find the perfect map.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just got to be either the map or I'll just adjust these parameters here. Because it is a little bit...
Is it still inverted?
It's a bit much. What's that?
Is it still inverted from the bubbles? Does it carry on?
You mean like no, that was a different layer. This is another layer.
Doesn't carry on from the bubbles where you said you inverted it.
No, it doesn't. It only like that negative inversion only happens to the specific layer. So if there's a levels applied to this layer, it only it's affected to whatever's happening in this layer here. So if you start a new layer, then that inversion then is neglected. It feels a bit harsh. Because it's nice to have, but it's a little bit harsh. Like I don't like it. So I might have to just remove this for now.
What happens if you invert that right now? What will it look like?
It will look like this. Oh, so this this was original. So I had to invert it in order for it to kind of sink in like this and make it look like some kind of indentation or some kind of peeling.
Peel away it.
Yeah. So let's go look for another map. Might be a little bit better than this. Maybe. Okay, let's try this again. I feel like I passed this on way too quickly. I'm not happy with it. Like, it's like so uniform. I mean, it like subtlety wise, it's not too bad, but it's not affecting.
You're looking for that pop.
Yeah, it's too much. That's what it is originally. That's what it is adjusted, but it's still a little too much for me. It's too noisy. What I could do is erase some of it, maybe randomly. That's with, that's without. It's a pretty big change. Okay, so I want to make it this drastic, and then I'm going to go and apply a mask on it, so it'll hide everything. And then in this mask, I'm going to apply some kind of 3D simplex. Apply a Bitmap Mask. Let's see, 3D then let's apply the position map here. So only some spots have it. You know, like so. So then maybe we can make this a little bit more harsh. Still is kind of uniform though. It's a little bit better compared to what was going on earlier. So that means I could make this more harsh. Yeah, there you go. So that's with, that's without. We don't really know where this is coming from, but just some marks of like maybe peeling. So maybe this is like rusty spots. I don't know. Have to be creative about it. Okay, I want to exclude now the bump from certain light mask to reveal everything, and I'm going to go ahead and hide the bumps from certain areas like the head and some of the bolts. We don't need to affect the bolts. The tag as well. We don't need to affect the tag and as well as this ring. Okay, so far that's kind of a generic pass for everything there. The next easy thing to approach is the dirt at the bottom, because you could always turn that on and off. And then I'm gonna make a dirt layer up here. Call this dirt layer. Bottom dirt.
And a moss layer too after.
Yeah, usually you would do those specific things later on, but for now, just an overall dirt at the bottom, because this is the most generic, so it's just on top of everything.
As you go, you mean? Like,
yeah, as you go, you'll end up moving the layers up and down, depending on what you want to happen. But bottom dirt layer seems like a good idea. Okay, so not non-metallic. It's pretty rough. Say like 0.9. No height. No normal. Color very dusty. Yeah, almost like this. So I'll make a generic dirt folder. And then in here, we'll have different kinds of dirt. But primarily what we're making is this one at the bottom.
oh, so you mean you can put those stamps in there too if you wanted to?
You can, sorry?
You can put these stamps in this on the fire hydrant if you wanted to.
What do you mean stamps?
The ones that are showing the pure ref TC or the tag at the bottom.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You'd have to just make those. Yeah, I would have to show you next week though. Don't worry about them for now, because you can use them as your normal map. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So this is the idea. So I'm gonna just show you quick if you're curious about it. So with just the height map enabled on the one layer, let's just say I can go to my alphas, grab a brush. So height map. We don't need the metal in this map. Go to black mask. Create like a height, like let's just say 0.5. Okay. And then in the mask, you want to use a alpha or something. Like this. So there you go. Right? You can do something that looks like this. So now
awesome.
the stamp looks like that, and then all you gotta do is just blur this. Apply, filter, blur. Now that looks kind of like this. Right, that's the idea there. But like that's all normal map, right? Like you didn't really do anything. Right, it's all height map there.
Still crazy though.
Oh yeah, super cool.
But then you can put your own letters too if you wanted to, like TC if you wanted to copy it.
You'd have to make your own alpha though. So you probably make it in Photoshop or something. For those who don't have Photoshop or anything like that, you can use Photopea on the internet. You can make all kinds of stuff there. So, if you ever like Photoshop lists, you can use Photopea. It's awesome. It's free. Okay. So dirt. The particles, you can make it rain. I don't really want that. I want to do a generator. Let's create a generator here. And we want dirt. Okay. Seems pretty good there. So we don't really need the dirt up here. What we do, we add a paint layer here. So we're gonna start excluding from certain start excluding some of the dirt from certain parts. Oh no, I don't want this. I can do face. So we don't need it there. Need it there. See, I'm gonna do a different dirt here.
More
Oh,
like
no.
a wet moss.
Oh no. Wet moss? Yeah, so up here will probably be wet moss, yeah. So let's get rid of all that dirt from there. And then let's just preserve these ones here. So I'm gonna make 2 of these. Bottom dirt layer, bottom dirt 1. Bottom dirt strong. And then I'm gonna make bottom dirt lights. I find this amazing. Yeah. Honestly, once you get the program going and you kind of know what you want to do, it becomes oddly satisfying. So the dust is not all over the place here, but we're gonna mostly fill in the bottom with dust. So add paint. We don't really need dust there. So make the bottom dirt a little bit dustier. So that's our mask right here. And I'm gonna add another bitmap mask here. So let's get kind of fancy. Kind of, not really. But right click, add bitmap mask. Let's go find like spots or something. No. Okay, sure. And let's increase its scale by like that much. And then let's go ahead and invert this. Oh yeah, and then apply a. Oh no! What am I doing? Add a fill, and then in this fill, I want to go maybe this. Yeah, and then I'm going to overlay. No, I'm going to screen. No, screen. I'm going to subtract. Subtract. Yeah, there you go. So now we're getting that. These kind of cracks and then dust and then cracks and then dust. Like there's certain areas that are more saturated and then less dusty than others. So now the mask looks like this. Probably have to fade this by hand, like paint that by hand. But this is kind of what we're going with here. Okay, just like showing you like the things that you could do here. But I'm gonna stop here. Okay, so but the idea is, guys, build the bump, and then slowly start building these parts. Okay, this is my bottom dirt right here. Just playing around. I've just been using procedurals. I haven't painted anything yet. When you paint something, then it gets even more awesome. But yeah, try looking back at the recording there and see if you can try to mimic some of the things that I did there. But they're not things that you don't know already. It's just applying levels on a certain layer. You're applying levels on the mask. Maybe you're applying levels on the on a specific layer with a grunge on it or something, or a bitmap mask, or a generator, right? You can call this one water leaks. Just gonna do a test here, just a generic water leaks. Water leaks base. I'm trying to use mostly like the preset stuff. That way you guys can kind of see what the preset stuff can do. You know, I'll just call this inner dirt. Like crease dirt, you know? Like AO dirt. Like dirt that's just like sat there for a while. So let's that sit a little bit better. Yeah, so the idea is you guys, you do your generic stuff first, and then you can go ahead and work on a little bit of your hand painting, maybe. But reserve the hand painting later. Do all the generic stuff first. Do all the foundation stuff first. Anything that you could, you know, use like masks to set up or generators to set up your foundation. That's good. And then later on, you do all the custom painting and stuff. Now, does anyone have any UVs they'd like me to kind of assess, to see? Anyone want me to critique anything? So I'm just going to let you guys kind of work at it. So maybe by 9 or so, I can show some custom stuff that I could do for this tag here. All right. And if you have any questions, of course, hit me up. Just message me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to be here. Look at some assignments as well as I kind of let you guys work a little bit. Make sure you're working. Make sure you're finishing your UVs. Make sure you are starting the texturing, if you will. Okay, let's try to work on the tag and maybe the ring as well. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the tag here. Now, when you're doing a snapshot with UDIMs in mind, it's gonna be a little bit different. So I'm gonna choose TIFF as my UV snapshot options. I'm gonna save here, I guess. Fire hydrant tag UVs, and you have to go to your UV area settings and choose tiles, and you're gonna choose U range 3 and V range 1. Okay, so U is vertical position, and then V is U is horizontal position, V is vertical position. And so based on that coordinate, so it would be the third, so U would be the third tile horizontally, and then it's also the first tile vertically. So that's why it's tiles U and U3 and tiles V1. Okay, let's go ahead and apply and close. So it'll create that. Okay, so now I can go to my temp, and then I'm going to go ahead and find my snapshot, and it'll be right here. Okay, so this is it. Right here. So I'm going to open that up in Photoshop. My cat's waiting for to eat. Oi. You hungry? Go ask your mom. Go. Okay, so start a new layer here. I am going to set my background to 50% gray. So go like this, sure, and then fill this, and set this in difference, and there's my UVs. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a layer here, and then I'm gonna call this HE7. No. HE774. Okay, so we want this white. So I'm gonna make an alpha out of this. Then my background will then be black. Turn the UVs off. Okay, so this will be my alpha that I'm gonna go ahead and insert in Substance. So let's save this as TIFF. So fire hydrant. I'm gonna call this tag alpha. Hit OK. I'm just going to minimize this. So it should have been created right here. And then now I can import this in my projects shelf. Let's drag it into the project shelf. Okay, so this will be an alpha in this current project. So if you go to your projects, here it is now. Okay. Where's my tag folder? right here. Okay, tag base, awesome. Let's make a text. Let's call this text. Okay. Let's make it like blue text. Wait, what does it show here on my my reference? Let's have a look. It's actually white. And there it is. So it seems there is a blue paint, I guess. Not sure. All I know is it's kind of like royal blue. Let's do fill by face. You could also paint the border. Something. You can emboss that a little bit, or maybe go into negative. So something like this. I'm gonna call this one tag. Throw all these items in here, and then I'm gonna make another folder, call this ring. Then I'm gonna make a different fill layer for this, call this ring base, and this one's gonna be also going to be metallic. But it's kind of worn. Okay, so let me see if I could put on a pattern on this ring base. I'm going to make another fill layer here. Ring pattern. Awesome. I'm only going to work with height and normal. And let's look at some procedurals. Let's look at some repeating patterns that we might be able to include on here. So it'll look kind of spirally. Maybe stripes. Oh yeah, Stripes would kind of work, I guess. Yeah, I don't quite agree with this stripes. I mean, I think it's the closest thing that we've got in the list. So I might just end up going with that. Oh, actually, fibers might work. Actually, no. No, fibers won't work. Stripes, I think, would work best. All right, well, we'll just go with... it's not good enough for me. Yeah, so maybe maybe that's the best we could do here. And then we could just adjust the levels of the height itself. So it's not as drastic. Kind of like that. Okay, so now we have like two patterns, right? Nice. Then we can add the paint splatter. A custom paint splatter on top. Paint. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna make a layer. Forget the folder. Paint splatter. And then you just maybe kind of a muted white. Somewhat rough. Not metallic with a little bit of height. Maybe 0.2. Black mask brush. Let's go find like a splatter brush. Yeah, there's some smaller splatters, but I need like one that's like messy. Oh, there you go. And I can remove too. No, but I think that's good. Like that. That's okay. All right, so if we put this against like another light, another HDRI. I'm gonna choose the one that's kind of green, the cave. So this is kind of what our reference is showing. So it shows you that our reflectivity kind of fits. And what I'm looking at here is this image. Let's look at the pure ref. Right, if this was the reflection, something like this would work. And if you look at the red, it comes pretty close. Could probably add a subtle adjustment to make it a little bit darker, maybe, or maybe that's just the dirt that's playing. But so far, we're getting it. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and save that. Let me know, you guys, if you have any questions regarding what I just showed there.
is ridiculous. It's not.
So guys, any questions with what you're supposed to be accomplishing for next week?
No.
Get the fire hydrant looking like a fire hydrant.
Yep. Get those UVs finished. Set up your mesh. So making sure you're gonna be either choosing the UDIM method or just the classic 0 to 1 UVing method. Export your fire hydrant and start texturing. Refer back to the recordings, of course, from last week's class and this week's as well. And go ahead and start texturing. We're going to cover more of it next week and talk about it some more.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So I hope everybody has all the resources. And if you also are missing some assignments from me, so we don't have to be done by next week. Nope, you don't have to be done by next week. We still have 2 classes left, so next week will be focused on texturing, and you're going to be working on the texturing as well for next week. But we covered a good small chunk today, so we're going to continue the texturing for next week. So no, it does not have to be done by next week. Make sure your UVs are through, though, are finished, because that one certainly will be marked. I'm just not going to be collecting it next week. And yeah, so yeah, some of you guys are missing assignments still. If you are missing assignments, please submit them as soon as you can. Remember, they are counting per week. They're counted per week. So yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you guys. So yeah, I guess if no questions, I mean, what else can we do here but just sign out, I guess. So have a good night, I guess, everybody.
Thanks, Harold. See you next week.
Yeah, have a good one.
See you guys. Take care.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for class, Harold.
Yeah, thank you as well. Have a good one, guys.
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.